All right, so you guys wanted to really understand positive thinking.
Yeah, deep dive. Particularly.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to do today. We've got all this amazing research we've been going over on like how positive thinking is defined psychologically, I guess, like what's actually happening in your mind when you think positively. And then what the benefits of that are, and then how it can actually work in everyday life.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can give you some real useful information and takeaways from all this.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating area. And when you start to think about positive thinking more deeply,
Yeah.
it's not just ignoring all the difficult stuff. It's actually, it's almost like a conscious choice you make. Like, how can I think about this in a way that makes me more likely to have a good result,
Mm.
even when things are really difficult? And, there's research that shows this really does have a huge impact on us, both mentally and physically.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, let's talk about like the actual definition. We came across this research from Caprara and Sticca, and they were pointing to life satisfaction, self-esteem, and optimism as kind of being like the key things there.
Yeah, those are all classic kind of indicators.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like if you're thinking positively, I would assume that your self-esteem would be higher and you would be more optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also Beckett and Zelzniewski came up with this really cool acronym, thinking.
I like that.
Yeah. So T is for transforming negative thoughts.
Okay.
H, highlighting the positive. I, interrupting pessimistic thoughts. N, noting the need to practice. K, knowing how to break down problems. The second I, initiating optimistic beliefs. N, nurturing ways to challenge pessimism. And G, generating positive feelings.
Right.
So I think what's really neat about this is it shows you that this is something that you actually work on.
Right.
It's not something that just, magically happens. It's skills.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like you can learn to do these things. You can practice these things. It's not, it doesn't just come to some people and not to others.
Exactly.
Um, we also found this research from Sui and Fujiwara, and they had 4 dimensions of positive thinking. So self-encouragement, which is basically just like being your own cheerleader, I guess.
Yeah, like hyping yourself up.
Exactly. And then self-assertive thinking. So like, thinking about how you can, your impact on the world and stuff like that
Yeah.
in a constructive way. Self-instructive or control. So like making sure that you're guiding your actions in a positive way. And then self-affirmative thinking. So that's like that, kind of classic confidence boosting thought.
Yeah, I can do this. I've got this. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it really is like a lot more than just like your personal outlook. It really affects like your relationships and how you act. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at kind of the general understanding of what positive thinking is, it involves those positive cognitions, which are essentially just the positive thought. So those, I can do it, I've got this, I will figure this out.
Yeah.
But then it's also being adaptable. Being able to kind of look at a situation and think, how can I use my strengths to approach this?
Yeah.
Being able to approach problems with hope and a kind of fundamental belief in yourself. So it's not just one thing, it's all of these things together.
Right.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got like a good, I think, overview of like what it actually is.
Yeah.
But you were talking earlier about how like the way we explain things to ourselves really matters.
Yeah.
And so we found this research from Martin Seligman. He talks about explanatory styles.
Yes.
Can you explain why this is so important?
Absolutely. So explanatory style is basically how you explain events to yourself. So let's say something really bad happened. You might have the thought, oh, I'm so stupid. Or you might have the thought, oh, wow, that was just bad luck. And so what Seligman is saying is that an optimistic explanatory style means you attribute good things to your own abilities and effort. But you see negative events as external. Like they're not your fault.
Oh, okay.
And you see them as temporary setbacks. It's just this one time. This doesn't mean I'm going to fail at everything. So it really does, it fosters that sense of control.
Mm-hmm.
I can do something to change things, and it also fosters hope. So imagine how differently you might approach something difficult.
Yeah.
If you think like, oh, this is a one-off,
Yeah.
versus if you think, oh, this is just who I am.
Right. Yeah, you're never going to be able to get over that.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so we've been talking about positive thinking as like this, personal practice.
Mm-hmm.
Where does it fit in with positive psychology as a whole?
Yeah, so positive psychology is kind of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And the American Psychological Association, the APA, defines it as the scientific study of well-being, positive relationships, and institutions.
Okay.
So it's really about what makes life good,
Yeah.
what makes life worth living. And they don't have a specific definition for positive thinking, but it's definitely a key part of how individuals can actually experience that well-being.
Right. Okay. So this is like one tool in the toolbox, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So we also hear about like positive thinking alongside like optimism and resilience and mindfulness. So I think it'd be cool to like distinguish between them and
Right.
like how they all work together.
Yeah, they're all really interconnected, and I think
Ah.
it can get a little confusing. So optimism, right? A lot of the time that's used interchangeably with positive thinking, but generally it means that you expect positive outcomes. But I was thinking about this guy, Simon Sinek. He talks about how true optimism is actually about believing that the future can be good, even if right now things are a mess. So it's kind of got that grit to it.
Okay.
Whereas just thinking positively can sometimes be a bit more superficial.
Right. Okay. So like optimism runs a little deeper.
Yeah, I think so.
Um okay, so what about resilience then?
Yeah. So resilience is about being able to recover from setbacks, like being able to bounce back from really difficult experiences. And positive thinking is really key there because it helps to fuel your ability to cope. You have that belief that you can actually get through it and come out the other side. So the relationship between positive thinking and resilience is very close. Positive thinking helps you be resilient, but also when you overcome difficult things, that can actually strengthen your positive thinking.
Right. It's like a positive feedback loop.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and then the last one that I mentioned was mindfulness.
Yes.
So how does that like tie into all of this?
Yeah, so mindfulness is about being present in the moment without judgment.
Right.
But positive thinking does involve kind of putting a positive slant on things.
Yeah.
So they are different. But mindfulness can actually be really helpful in developing positive thinking.
Hmm.
So if you think back to that thinking acronym,
Yeah.
there's that interrupting pessimistic thoughts. And mindfulness can really help us to do that
Yeah.
because it creates a space between our thoughts and how we react.
Hmm.
So you can notice a negative thought,
Mm.
but you don't have to automatically believe it and get swept away by it.
Right. Okay. So I think we've covered a lot. So for you listening, just to kind of sum up, I guess positive thinking is it's a lot more than just, oh, I'm just going to feel good today.
Yeah.
It's actually about developing skills. It's about understanding how you explain things to yourself. And it's about really like building up this mindset that can help you in every area of your life.
Yeah. And to be resilient.
Yeah.
To build good relationships. To achieve the things that you want to achieve. So it has an impact on your inner world, but it also affects what you're able to do out in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And so this leads me to a question for you listening. We talked about the difference between optimism, kind of that deeper, kind of belief that things will work out versus the active skills of positive thinking. So I want you to think about like how you might be able to use even one of those skills from the thinking acronym to help you this week. So maybe try to catch yourself when you're having a negative thought and try to transform it into something a bit more positive and just notice how that changes how you feel, how you approach things, see how it goes. Anyway, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening.